Hey guys, here again, Dr. Hampton, as you know, a board certified family and obesity medicine doc here with a post podcast episode number 23. And I have with me a great guy, Arnout Orelio. And today we're going to talk a little bit about lean leadership, and we'll explain what that is in a moment. And we just completed that other podcast. It actually was released on December the 3rd. And you'll find it in your favorite podcast app. You're going to love it because it really is going to help you understand what your leadership role is, not only at work, but at home and at play. So I encourage you guys to check that episode out. Arnout, my partner here, is an author of a great book called Lean Thinking for Emerging Healthcare Leaders. Now, as a healthcare leader, I was very intrigued by that. And I'll let him tell you how he knows me. And it's really about how to develop yourself and how to implement process improvement. And you can do that at home. You can do it at work in every part of your life. So I really appreciate him sharing his expertise because it won't just help me improve advocate of rural healthcare, but it'll actually help all of us improve what we do at home as well. And so during that podcast episode, we talked a little bit about his book, and his book, which we'll talk about a little bit, focused on a few areas. Why is it important to try to aim for perfection? We talked about how to avoid waste. And when you avoid waste, you become more efficient. We talked about the importance of having goals and what is a lean mindset. And I'll make sure that Arnout explains what a lean mindset is, and the importance of making problems visible so you can actually see right in front of you when you have a problem. It's best to see it. You don't want to hide it. And other issues like the importance of coaching. And of course, the topic today is all about being a leader. So I learned a lot about lean thinking in my previous role. I was actually a medical director of an advocate operating system. And that operating system, which helps to make us efficient, was actually using the same principles that my friend here uses, which is from the Toyota manufacturing company. So I really, really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed his book, and I enjoyed being in that role. But I really want to make sure with this episode that you understand that if you are an effective leader, it's important that you will optimize that skill so that you'll then be able to lead your family, or maybe even your church community, or wherever you want to be a leader. It's important to do that. And again, we are all leaders. One of the things I did in preparation for this conversation is I saw this article, and the article here is entitled Leadership Matters. So I wanted to read a couple of statements from that just to kind of tee my buddy up so he'll understand, or will understand, where he's going with his thoughts. So this is written by a guy named Chris Moore. It was published May 14, 2019, just in case you want to check it out. And it says, leadership matters because people matter. So it says people are looking for meaning and purpose. They are looking to know someone cares. They want to belong. People desire to be part of something bigger than themselves. Leadership provides each of these. And then under the category of leadership matters at work, he states that employees do not believe they say if employees do not believe that their employer cares about them or values them, how much effort will they give at work? If employees do not understand why their job matters, how much will they love their job? If employees do not know what to do, how much work will actually get done? Without leadership at work, little work gets done. And he also makes a comment about leadership matters at home. So our families want to know they matter to us. They want to feel important and valued. Loving and serving our families is actually leadership. Helping our family members to see their value and importance to the rest of the family is leadership. Each person in our family matters, and often the best way to show them they matter is to give them focused time. And the last area he talks about in his article is self-leadership matters. Before you can lead others, you have to lead yourself. You have to see that you matter. You have skills and abilities to offer the world. You have a purpose. To serve others, you must first lead yourself. If everything in your life is about me, you are not leading yourself well. So I just thought, Arnout, that was a great way to tee us up, because man, leadership is something that people don't necessarily think about, and they think it's something you only focus about at work, but that we know that our lives have changed by adopting some of these principles. So let's go ahead and get started. I think the first thing I want you to do, and you did this in a podcast, but I think it'd be nice to share how you know me. How did we, because we knew each other before we actually had this conversation.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Dr. Tony, for the great introduction. I really liked the article. I think it made very clear why leadership is important, and it actually has nothing to do with work, although it's important to your work. So we met in the summer of, I believe it was 2016.
I think 16 rings a bell to me.
Yeah, 16 or 17 maybe. I'm not sure. It's already 3 or 4 years ago. At a lovely island in Greece, Santorini. And we were there because we were both invited by one of my partners at the Lean Leadership Institute, George Dutilis.
That's right.
Who organized a week-long Lean Leadership Conference on the island, because that's where he was born and raised. And I was there, well, because I just had become a partner in this company, this Lean Leadership Institute. And I believe you were there because you were willing to present us your work and your findings when it comes to how to live healthy by maybe changing your diet.
That's right.
And what interesting is that, well, it was about lean. And if you wouldn't know that lean was a management philosophy, you would think lean is about your body.
That's right.
Because lean means fitness. And that's actually where the word comes from. Because at the late 1980s, there was a large research from MIT that found out that in Japan, there were car manufacturers who used half the resources to build way better cars. And they called that lean, because they thought that, well, at first they did with what they saw, and they saw that, well, they used less resources. So companies like Toyota, they didn't have a lot of cash when they started out right after the World War II. And so they have to figure out a way to stay lean as a company. So all their excess inventory and all their defects and all their overproduction and everything that put fat on the company, as you could say, fat on your body.
That's right.
They saw this as excess fat, and they wanted to get rid of it. And that's where the word lean came from. It also is a bit of a problem because it's a very narrow definition, and it was quickly translated by Western consultants and multinationals as a cost reduction program. Whereas lean has, although its result is cost reduction, it's not about cost reduction. It's about having a healthy company.
Right.
And a healthy company means that you see your company more as an organism with all these people, and you want to grow and develop them, because that will give you the best results for your customers, and that will give you prosperity and a long life. Yeah. Like most of us individuals also try to achieve, live a healthy and long life. So
and I love it because in healthcare, it's kind of funny as I think about a car company and the idea that we would lean towards a car company to figure out how to lead and be more efficient. It's kind of a weird paradox that a healthcare system or any system, as you know, we use these methodologies for all kinds of companies. But what I did know is that it was going to change how I led my life in some ways. And I'm very lean in terms of how I'm more efficient, even just taking the time to do because, just so you guys know, Arnout is in the Netherlands. So it is not, in Chicago Central, it is 12:20. And what time is it there for you, Arnout?
It's 7:20.
Exactly. So it's actually, a 7-hour difference. And I tell you, it's every time I think about that, it blows my mind. So thank you. I'm sure you've had dinner by now.
Yes, I had. And I had the right excuse to have my sons clean out the dishes. So
I like that. That's
another. So thank you for making me be on time. So
that's right.
That's really, really, really good.
So I think that helps frame some of the thinking around what this lean way of thinking is. And I just so you guys know, when we did the actual episode, we really walked through Arnout's book, which I think is a wonderful book. And we talked about the different chapters. We talked about chapter 1, giving direction. He talked about a story of a boat, and I can't wait for you guys to listen to the podcast to hear that story. And that's chapter 2. We talked about chapter 3, which is creating a lean mindset, because you have to think a certain way to be lean. And an example I gave during the podcast was this idea of when I make my ribs, instead of making the rub every single time I need to have a rub, what I do is I make the rub one time in a large container with the paprika and the different ingredients, and then onion powder and all of that stuff. And then what happens is I only have to do it one time, and now I can then put the rub on my ribs once every time, and I won't have to keep doing it over and over again. We talked about the importance of making things visible, how important it is to stabilize the changes, improving the process. We talked about leadership at a high level, and we're going to go a little deeper. And we talked about the importance of coaching. So all of these are principles, and the coaching thing is really critical, because when Arnout mentioned George with that Leadership Institute, he actually was coaching me as well. So when I learned to become an effective leader, I learned some principles about through a coach, and I think that we all can benefit from that. So I just wanted to make sure you guys heard that as well. So let's think a little bit about this lean leadership chapter you wrote, Arnout. And I want you to give us some principles that you shared in that chapter. Do you have the book with you?
Yes, I have it. Of course, I have a personal view copy.
That's
just for me to check and to remind me. Oh yes, well, what was it I wrote? Because, well, I like to stay to my own truth. So
you have to.
I will peek from time to time whether we're still aligned.
Yeah,
yes.
You have to remind yourself.
So, but before I go into the book, maybe there's one important principle that we didn't discuss in the podcast, but was actually what made your story about I would call it your health leadership, very compelling. And that's the first thing a leader needs to do is to gather the facts. So true leadership is always about, well, showing and knowing the truth and be open about it as it is.
Yeah.
And those facts will inform your decisions, or they will inform the path you need to go to wherever you want to go. And because you showed me how we got fooled somewhere around the 70s about the value or the non-value of having vegetative oils in your meals, right. I thought, yeah, that's about the same thing, because we excluded some facts from the findings.
Right.
We got in a whole different direction as a society, which is, well, let me comment real quick. On the one end, sorry, just to finish. On the one end, that's terrible, and on the other end, it's it's beautiful because it means that leaders have a lot of influence. You had a lot of influence because you changed the course not only of me and my diet, but I think of the whole community that you're serving. So thank you for that. Well, epiphany, baby, even.
Yeah, it's I think I need to speak to that briefly.
Yeah, go ahead.
We're still fighting that fear the fat battle, right? So
Yeah.
so just so everybody understands what my friend here is talking about is Ansel Keys was a researcher, and he started this whole journey for us moving towards this fear of fat. And they thought, based on his research, that saturated fat caused heart disease. And later on, they found that it was a 20 or so country study, and he actually took out every country that didn't align with his hypothesis, including countries like France and Mexico, where they eat a lot of fat, don't have a lot of heart disease. But I say that we're still fighting this battle because although there's been plenty of studies, there's plenty of studies that show that that's not the fact. Now, processed meat can be a little bit of a problem, but regular, steak with a little fat on it is not a problem. And you'll hear my, colleagues who are vegan and vegetarian, they will argue that it definitely is a correlation. And what I would say to them is, well, you got to look at the study. So, in fact, just recently or not, there was a study just came out from the British Medical Journal. And in that study, they said what they did is they, instead of giving you new science, they took the old science, and you know how they do these analyses, meta-analyses. Yeah, all of that. And the thing is, all of those studies that they looked at were food frequency questionnaires, meaning that every 4 years, they'd send you a survey and say, how much meat are you eating? How much, and then what happens is you send this stuff in, which is not really science. But more importantly, what they found in these studies is that the people who tended to eat more meat also tended to be smokers. People who eat more meat tended to not exercise, and all of these other factors that didn't really isolate for fat itself.
Yeah.
So what happens is that's not real science. And so and that's what's confusing our population, is that they keep hearing all these mixed messages. They'll see a headline saying fat causes heart disease, but they're not like you and me. They're not going to look at the study and understand how it was done, and it wasn't biased, and all these other factors. And then once you look at, if you looked at RCTs, which are randomized controlled studies, right? And anybody who's listening can go to the Diet Doctor and just search Diet Doctor and the science behind fat, something like that. And what you'll find is that when they looked at 31 studies comparing a low-fat diet to a low-carb diet, the low-carb diet won 31-0 when you do the study the right way. So my point is, now the good news is the low-fat diet also works. So I have no problem with a low-fat diet because that'll help people who are not having problems with starch and sugar. They're called insulin sensitive. But when you compare the two, this diet actually beats the low-fat diet hands down. And actually, if you recall, I was going to write my Fix Your Diet, Fix Your Diabetes book about, it was going to be a vegetarian book. But when I started looking at the data said something other than what I knew. So I had to flip it to a different method. But thanks for bringing that up, because I think that we have these aha moments. And when you have these aha moments, that's when you have to reconsider your current beliefs and maybe shift it in a different direction.
Exactly. That's exactly what needs to happen. And that's why you need the facts, because you can compare that to your beliefs. It was Taiichi Ohno, the founder of this whole lean management philosophy, you could say. He said that you have to fight and kill your preconceptions every day. And he assumed that if you're really, really smart, you're maybe right 50% of the time.
Right.
So most people like you and me, we're most of the time we're wrong. What we think and what is actually happen is not the same. It's not congruent. So
right.
So that's why I said the first step of leadership is accepting that you don't know and that you're willing to meet the truth. And based on that truth, you're going to consider what to do.
That's right. That's right.
So
I love that. And last thing I'll say as a comment is, we just had an interview for somebody this morning who, we talked a little bit about, how do you effectively lead your team? And one of the things we talked about during the conversation was you have to go to where the work's being done. And if you're not able to see, so for example, another example we talked about in the podcast was where the hand sanitizer was. So if you're sitting in the office and you're trying to figure out where should the hand sanitizer be, the best way to learn that, first of all, you talk to the people that are doing the work, but you also go to the doctor's office and you stand there by the door and say, what would be the most logical place to put the hand sanitizer? And historically in our organization, we would put it by the sink, which makes sense in some ways because you're washing your hands. But what we learned is that we should put it by the door because when you walk in the door, that should be the first thing you do before you engage with your patient. So I just think that if you go to where the work's being done, I think that'll be critical as a leader trying to lead your team, or when you're sitting down with your kids and you're trying to understand what their needs are. Sometimes you have to get your knees dirty, get on the floor with your kids and see the world through their lens. So so go ahead. Let's hear some of the principles you got for us today.
Yeah. So, but and then we come to, because you were asking me in the introduction about perfection, because going to the place where the work is done, or where your family is living, or where you keep your clothes, or whatever the issue is, it is only you need to do it purposeful. And that means that you go there to see whether there's some abnormalities. And for abnormalities, you need to know what normal is.
Right.
So what Taichi Ono did and what I do in the book is I teach you that normal is when it's perfect. Because that's the only condition you really want to keep. So if you compare everything to perfection, you're going to start to see where it's not perfect. And this is not to, I don't know, to make you angry or to just have people complain or hold you accountable. It's not about being perfect. It's about comparing yourself to perfection so you know where your potential is.
Okay.
And so if you go into the doctor's office to see where the hand sanitizer should be, you can only do that if you have a purposeful mind and know how should the ideal doctor's office look like. Well, in the ideal doctor's office, all doctors have their hand washed, sanitized before they encounter the patient.
Yes, right.
And that's why you figured out the right spot, because you had a reference. So the first task for a leader is always to set a direction, to have like a target or a purpose, something you like to achieve. And that direction, that in my book, I say that it should be a personal goal. Because there's a lot of people who say, well, do you have a target? Yes, I need to sell 200,000 of our products each month. But they say, my boss told me to. And this is wrong, because if you're doing something just because your boss is telling you to, why are you working there? Then it suggests that the job is not in line with what your personal mission in life is.
That's right.
So try to find out what your personal mission in life is, and we all have one, although we maybe didn't figure it out yet. And if you think about personal missions, then you also understand that all people are different. That's for a reason.
Yeah.
And whether you believe it's a higher power that created that reason or not, that's not the point. All people are different because then we can help. There's no point in having a team with all the people having the same abilities. What if a basketball team, we talked about LeBron James. What if there was nobody could pass, people could only score?
Yeah, that would not work.
That would not work.
Actually, one of the things about LeBron that distinguishes him from his peers is he is so good at, and I would argue better than Michael and better than Kobe. I know that's blasphemous for some people to hear, but he's better at facilitating and he helps to make his teammates better. Now, if you're at the end of the game and you want to hit a bucket, you may want to choose Michael or Kobe because there's assassins. But if you want to start a team with a guy that's going to make everybody around them better, LeBron James may be a better fit because he's very good at making sure, and he can take. In fact, I heard another basketball expert say the reason why they would start with LeBron is because they know that with those other guys, you have to put pieces around them that kind of fit them. Where with LeBron, you can put anything around him and he'll just make it work. He just knows how to fit. He just give me some guys that can do a certain skill and I'll make it work. So I think everything this resonates with me as an fan, previous athlete, and also when I think about my personal goals, what type of dad do you want to be? What type of husband do you want to be? What type of neighbor do you want to be? And then you can kind of set some goals based on that allow you to achieve those things. So I like that.
And these are evenly important. So as another principle that I write about in the book is the fact that you need a balanced plan. So there's a lot of people, and I understand what they're doing and trying to achieve, that take 2, maybe 3 jobs, and they say, I do it for my family. Mm-hmm. But what's the point of doing something for your family when you're never home?
Right.
So, and it's difficult because luckily in the Netherlands we have least of these problems, but there's a lot of people in the US that work on minimum wage, and if they lose their job, they have no income whatsoever. So it's not to judge their situation and their choices. It's just that whenever you set a goal, make sure that the way you're going to achieve it is in line with what you find important in life. Mm-hmm. And that might be, I want to be the best basketball player in the world, but I get home at 6. And that means that he has to work around this 6 o'clock thing where he has dinner with his family and turns his phone off.
Right.
And that he then goes back to the gym after 9. Well, yeah, that's the consequence. But we have to more consider all aspects of our life, like our food or like our personal development. Mm-hmm. So whenever you make a plan, make your goal personal, something you really want or you need to do in life, whatever your how you define it.
Yeah,
and then make,
even with that nest back there. Yeah. When I because people think of me and they think nutrition, right? But one of the things that I didn't master until maybe the last year was sleep. So that nest, nutrition, exercise, less stress, more sleep. But the sleep part then allowed me to be more alert during the day. So and so you have more energy and you can do your thing. You can do something like this. It's not a burden. I got a couple of video visits to do after this, and you have that because you get your rest. Now, the old me would have said, you got to stay up late, you got to get it done, you got to get it done. But then I found that I was not productive for several days after that when I don't get enough sleep.
No, so no, that's the wrong thing. That would be called classical management instead of lean management. That is, thinking that you have to get it done or hit the numbers.
That's right.
That's not a goal.
Yeah.
That's somebody who thinks that humans are automatons and that they find it difficult to admit that we're just human. So they do like it doesn't matter, but it matters. When I listen a lot to podcasts of successful entrepreneurs, and you know what most of them do? They nap.
Mm.
So yeah, so the really successful one, they nap like 20 minutes each day, and they take 9 hours sleep each night.
Right. Yeah. Who would have thought? I mean, I would have never thought that, right? I mean, it makes sense now, but I mean, most people.
Yeah, but we're not well educated in how to live a successful life.
Right.
Because we have all these preconceptions, like Ono said, about what is important and what we need to do. And what is important, you go the first quarter of your life, you go to school, and then afterwards you work. Well, that the most people do it like that, but the successful people didn't.
Yeah, they learned to work a little smarter, and
yeah, they had a different path because they found out that their personal development, it should be leading for what you need to do in life. And nobody is asking me, nobody was asking me in school, what is your purpose in life? They maybe ask what you want to become. So you say fireman or I don't know, maybe athlete when you're young, but they just ask that to be polite, but they don't ask it. The next question could be, well, how are you going to achieve that?
Right.
Nobody. If you say athlete, they say, well, the chance is very slim. Maybe you should better go to school and learn a trade.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we have to do better. We don't. I think what I'm hearing also is just this need to focus on what's important. For example, if making sure you have a roof over your head and that the food is on the table and the utilities are paid, then you should know a little bit about finance, right? And the question,
exactly.
Do we spend any time teaching people how to, I don't know how many people listening to this or will see it later. And by the way, guys, if you have any questions about this topic, just put it in the comments section. But how many people are doing budgets? And certainly we should be doing a budget during a pandemic because people are struggling. But how many people really do a budget? A real budget where you write down what's coming in and what's going out. So it kind of speaks to what you said earlier, which is you have to know your current state. You have to know where you have to know what's normal, what's perfect. And if you don't even know what's going in or coming out, that's why you're struggling every month trying to make sure the bills are paid. You shouldn't even have to think about it. It should be automatic that the bills are paid because you took a moment to do a budget. So those are just basic things. But if putting food on the table and having a roof and security is important, we're never taught how to do that. I mean, It's a basic skill.
Yes. So, and that's also because we never had, we were never taught how to. It's in the sentence. It's very nice. How to lead our lives. Mm-hmm. Leading our lives. Most people think that's something that happens to us. No, it's leading your life. It's you leading your life.
That's
so,
right.
But it's just it just came to me that this word of leading your life, that should be, well, you should be thinking about it every day.
Yeah, every day.
How am I leading my life?
It should be an active process. It should be something that you reassess. Let's take, one of the things when I was with the Advocate Operating System in my role as the medical director, every time we had like a healthy living event, for example, and every time we would have a healthy living event, we would huddle afterwards and we would say, let's talk about what went well and what didn't go well. And we did
Exactly.
this every single healthy living event. You would think, well, you've done it many times. Why are you doing that? Because we would always find gaps that didn't allow us to achieve this perfection you spoke of earlier. So why don't we do that in our lives with our relationships, with how we deal with our kids? We should be asking our kids at the end of the week, tell me what went well between me and you and what didn't go well. And then your kid may provide some insight that'll help
Exactly.
you.
Yeah.
That father, your wife, or your husband may provide insight. So I think that's really important. And thank you, Miss Howard, she said, you got to balance your checkbook.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I totally agree with that. So
it sounds very easy, but it's very difficult because you first have to know that it's important and it's doable and that you can learn it. Some
okay,
people are so discouraged by the fact that they were, I don't know, told in school that you better stop math because you will never learn it.
that's right.
And then
Right.
you're 15 and there's somebody tells you, well, don't do anything with numbers because yes, but then they have to lead their family and they have to make sure that everything gets paid and they still need to do the math. So maybe the roles can be a bit
That's right.
reversed and
That's
maybe the teacher can tell them, I'm going to make sure that when you run your family, it will be financially sound. That would be a great commitment from a teacher. And then he needs, I lost sound, as somebody says.
Yeah, I saw that. I mean, yeah, I know we're hearing each other, so hopefully it's a local thing, but we'll keep rolling. I did see that, so
okay.
hopefully. Okay.
So no worries. So yes, so in education, there's also still a lot to do to make sure. And that makes me think about the big difference between how Toyota teaches and educates their workforce compared to how it's done in school, is that Toyota has output standards.
Mm-hmm.
So they develop somebody until he reaches the level. So let's say that the level is A. Then in school, somebody is an A, a B, or a C student. But at Toyota, they're all A students because if you're not an A student, you don't graduate.
Mm.
So that means that whoever is getting his welding certificate or whatever his job is, you know he's an A student.
Mm.
And it should be great if we could, because everybody can be an A student in something.
So in other words, you're not saying that everybody is perfect at everything. In other words, are you saying that with this model, they find out, here's 100 things that need to happen in this company for us to be successful as a company. And there's got to be one of those 100 things that you're really good at, and you become an A at that. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, yes, that's what they're doing. And they even do it for leadership. So what they do is they call it a T model of development. And it means that you're in one area and you start developing your leadership by solving ever bigger problems. Until you get such a high level, maybe you're a plant manager or whatever, and then they build the T, and the T is that you're gonna lead multidisciplinary problems. So one of the examples in the books by Jeffrey Liker, who wrote a lot about Toyota, is that somebody gets to reduce the warranty costs of cars.
Mm-hmm.
Well, warranty costs. Who has to deal with warranty costs? Well, there's customers who complain, and there's people at the dealer who has to address the. So he had to see all those people involved, and then he developed multidisciplinary and general leadership because he was no longer the boss of these people. He was just somebody who tried to solve a problem. So he developed his influence without using his power. And that is the most effective and cooperative way of leading. So it's even a saying at companies like Toyota, lead as if you have no power.
Mm.
So try in your family, don't lead because you're the dad. Lead as if you have no power. And like you said, your children will show you the truth.
That's right.
Because they have no fear of telling you what's going on.
Yeah, they're very honest, and I just think understanding how to harvest information from them will make your job as a parent easier, to be honest, because they're helping you. You're going to provide guidance and you're going to challenge them. But I think our kids and our spouses, they all add value, and we want to hear them. And I think that's a question that we can, again, I go back to that, what went well this week and what didn't go well. And then once we identify things that we're struggling with, be comfortable working together to solve that problem. But also, what I'm also hearing you say, Arnout, is that if you are good at something, then make that even better. So if you're a dad that knows how to tell some good jokes, then I need you to tell more good jokes and make your family laugh, right?
Yeah.
If you're if you have a skill, you're a phenomenal cook. I need everybody in the family to join you in the kitchen. We're going to share that skill and that gift with the rest of the family. So I think and I had to learn, I'm a talker, so why not start a podcast?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's
very good.
You know? So I think that makes a lot of sense. So, and by the way, Jeff Liker, I just want to lift Jeff Liker. He's one of the pioneers in the, he's one of those guys who's from this country as opposed to from Japan, right?
Yeah, he is.
He's
from the University of Michigan.
Exactly. So this guy he helps us translate some of the ways of thinking. He's never going to get it perfect because it's a different culture, but he's gotten pretty close to giving us tools. He wrote a book, The Toyota Way, and how to develop lean leaderships and things like that. And one of the books he wrote with George, the guy we mentioned earlier.
Exactly. Yeah.
So just keep that name in mind. So if you find that Arnout's book is helpful, then you may get thirsty for more information. So you want to know that name, Jeff Liker. I think
exactly.
Happy with this. You'll see him on Amazon everywhere. He's got a lot of books out there. So so I just wanted to mention that.
Yes, and maybe it's also good because you named culture. But with Toyota, the most important thing is to understand it's a corporate culture. So, and they've proven it over and over again because they have multiple plants in the United States, all run by Americans. And there they still have this culture of continuous improvement and learning.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's a bit different because, well, it's Americans and not Japanese. But the most important thing is to understand is that they developed themselves in a way that was foreseen by their founders and leaders, and what they did is they found a way to preserve their culture despite the changes in leadership.
Right.
And this is and that's good news because the same would go for most of the families, luckily, that there's little change in leadership. Because when there's a change in leadership, like when maybe there's a divorce, that's always the most difficult time to uphold the family values.
That's right.
So you might want to think when you're in a divorce or some other way your relationship is not working, or maybe you lost a loved one, then be aware that how you're going to preserve the family values.
Love that.
Because it would be bad to just because of this incident, you would lose sight of what you find important with your family.
We're actually as we're merging, I had another meeting this morning with I'm chairing our health outcomes committee, and so I'm talking to Advocate Aurora. Aurora was in Wisconsin, Advocates in Illinois. So we're kind of a blended family now. So we're having to retain some of our values. We're having to learn of some of their values, and we're trying to integrate both of them. But I love this ideal of continuous improvement, continuous learning. In fact, if anybody's live right now, think of one area in your life that you want to improve, and just throw that in the comments. I'm really curious, what you want to improve. I know we have a new year coming, and a lot of people get a little excited about New Year's resolutions. What's one area that you really want to improve? I know for me, I think that I try to follow my principles of protecting the nest, and I've gotten my sleep down, and I'm much better with stress and thinking positive and things like that. When I think about this rope, relationships and the organisms and the pollutions and life experiences, I think for me, I think about that E. I want my life experiences to be richer. So I'm hoping if we can get an effective vaccine, and I encourage everybody to consider the vaccine, I'm hoping that I can do more traveling. Maybe I'll end up in the Netherlands. But
that would be great.
Yeah, I would love that. And I want my life experiences to be positive, richer. So, but in order to do that, I have to, figure out how to make that happen. So, but again, I think this model of continuous improvement.
So maybe it would take us to the next principle, because so New Year's resolutions can be great, but that's also the problem, because great can also mean large.
Yeah, true.
So
true.
So what I would suggest people to do, so let's make it simple. Maybe you want to lose weight, just for the example, not because you want to or whatever, but for the example. So people look in the mirror and think, I want to lose, I think you say pounds. So let's say I want to lose 40 pounds. So that's a lot, and that's very, very, very difficult. So, and because plans are never perfect, because in real life, things go different than we expect. It's better not to plan your activities, but do experiments. So I would say that if you want to lose 40 pounds, you say, I'm going to lose 40 pounds in 40 weeks. And now you have to lose only 1 pound.
I like it.
In 1 week.
Yeah.
So, and that means that every day you want to lose, would you say 200 ounces, or is that not correct? I'm not into I would say a kilo is in the metric system, is that 2 ounces.
Okay.
But you can cut it in 5. So 0.2 pound per day. And you make that your target. And then you think of one thing you can do that will give you this, this weight reduction. Yeah. Only one thing. And that thing you're going to train yourself in every day. So let's say that the first thing you're going to do is you're going to skip dessert. That's your first activity you're going to do. Well, then your target is not, I want to lose 40 pounds. No, your target is skipping dessert every day.
Right. Okay.
And then your New Year's resolution becomes a focused routine. And every day you ask yourself, okay, did I skip dessert? And if I did, yay.
Right.
And you put a sign on the wall. Or whatever you do. Maybe you make a graph out of it. And if you didn't, you just ask, how come? Well, my mother was over and she made her lovely creme brulee. I couldn't resist. Okay. So what did you learn? Well, that I have to plan my dinners and that I have to inform my mother that she can't make her whatever, her creme brulee. Yes. So this is a very important principle. This is what continuous improvement makes continuous.
I like that, and
So
by the
make it
way,
small.
yeah, I love it. It sounds like, okay, so it's important to make it bite-sized pieces.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
something you can actually bite. Number two, you have to celebrate your wins. So when you do well, you do yourself a high five. And if you don't reach your goal, you ask yourself, okay, why didn't it work? And then maybe problem solve and come up with an alternative path. I like that. And I think,
Exactly. Yeah,
guys, as you listen in, these are principles you can apply to any problem, any situation, any goal. And I think that's important. Looks like Donna Howard, she wants to play golf. She got a little Tiger Woods in her. So so Donna Howard, I love that idea. In fact, you'd be surprised, Donna. I'm a doctor that don't know how to play golf. So that's actually on my to-do list as well. We want to say hi to Aunt Banks. And it sounds like Carol Murray wants to attain and maintain a healthy weight. And I like how she said this. There is no perfect weight, guys. We want to achieve what we call metabolic health. If you go to drtonyhampton.com, you'll see metabolic health. And that's more important than a certain number. Donna also wants to run a marathon. So I think that would be a great goal for her. And I really want to, encourage her along her journey to do that. And then Carol, my main goal is purposeful eating. So that kind of speaks to what you just said or not. I have to have purpose behind what I do. And so
exactly.
if I'm hearing Carol correct, she wants to, I'm not going to just run and grab something. I'm going to think about it. Before I go to the grocery store, I'm like, what is my goal for the week? It's a purpose behind it. So I love the comments that you guys are chiming in with, and I appreciate that. So let's
Yes.
move
And there's something else important. That's why I like the goal of Carol so much. That's you cannot manage results. You can only manage the process. And that means that you have to know what your process is to get the results, because as soon as you have the results, good or bad, you're too late. You can't correct them. But you can think about, am I purposefully eating now or not? And if you're not, you can correct. And if you do, then you just keep on doing that.
That's right.
So manage the process instead of the results. Very, very important, because otherwise you will disappoint yourself over and over.
I love all of this because I'm setting a target 40 pounds or whatever that number is. But if I break it down to bite-sized pieces, that's one thing that's less stressful. If I have a process that is going to allow me to achieve that goal and I just have to follow the process, like I have a very simple process. I exercise every other day. And my real process is I need to at least do, 15 minutes. And sometimes it's 30, sometimes it's 20. But the bottom line is I have a very simple process. And when I check that box that says I did it, you just feel like a winner. And it's just good to be able to keep, and it's like it becomes a habit after a while because you want to keep getting that feeling. So we'll see. It sounds like sometimes it looks like there may be times when the connections are being lost. So I'm not sure what that's all about. Again, we'll keep rolling, and hopefully the final product will be okay. So, but let's move along. You have some other talking points you want to share?
Yeah. So what we didn't discuss yet is the importance of a coach. So we already also talked about it in the podcast, but I like to, maybe revisit it again, because, like all world-class athletes, we said they all have a coach.
That's right.
And it's not about that somebody is a certified coach. No, it's that somebody who has a method for the goals you want to achieve. And they can help you by mirroring you and reflect on your performance, and maybe observe you and see things you're not aware of. We discussed last time that people are doing 95% of everything they do all the time unconsciously. So most of the things we do are just managed by our brain without us even being aware of it. So a coach can help you to see way more of yourself, and therefore whether it's normal or abnormal, and can help you to steer in the right direction or keep you in the process. And whether it's swimming or running a marathon or losing weight, we all need a coach. And not only to enhance the learning, but also to help us to be accountable to our goals. Because it's quite easy to say to yourself, well, okay, yeah, well, I didn't manage this guy. Next time I will do better. We have all kind of excuses all the time in our heads. But when you have to explain to a coach that you didn't do what you agreed on, that's way more difficult. Especially when this coach is creating a safe zone. And a safe zone is a place where people can speak up and speak their mind and just tell the truth. Because it's not, there are no repercussions. The only repercussions is that you need to work harder and that you need to learn. But there's no, I don't know, you not get fired of whatever for not doing.
I purposely made sure my coach was not somebody within my same organization. For exactly the reason you're saying, because not that it couldn't, I'm sure it could be, but it was nice to have a kind of an independent source of accountability and inspiration and challenge. But I didn't have to worry that it was my boss, even though I respect those guys as much. But I think everything you're saying makes sense about this coaching. It resonates with me because as a father, I have to be a coach. As a doctor, I have to be a coach. As a husband, I got to be a coach. I mean, it's like all those roles require coaching, and I need to be coached as well.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe you can have different coaches for different things. Like you have a pitcher's coach and a catcher's coach and a field coach. And I don't know what kind of coaches they have in baseball. When it's your boss, or if it's your boss, maybe it's better to say, that can be done under one condition. That all the agendas are on the table. Because the coach is there for you and for what you want to learn and to achieve. And if they're there to achieve their own agenda, and especially if you're unaware of it, that can cause quite some trouble. So before you have your boss, unless you have full confidence in him or her, then it's no problem. But if you're doubting whether they can be trusted, you better have a sincere conversation up front, what the conditions are under which you could be coached.
Yeah, I think those conversations that happen in relationships have to be done regularly, because sometimes you're too busy trying to work and take care of the kids that you don't really have conversations. So a lot of these hidden problems never rise to the surface, and
exactly.
It builds up. It may not feel like it's building up, but it's we just got to do better, and by the way, so we have one comment looking forward to learning more about, I think what she's talking about is coaching, and Tom is a coach, believe it or not, ironically. Okay. So basically looking forward to reaching out to Tom. Tom is somebody that does coaching for some of the patients that I serve. And what
That's good.
Hoping, but I promise you, I wouldn't even have known about this if it wasn't for the Toyota model and what I learned. And I learned that you can be a very smart doctor. You can be a good, well-meaning husband or wife, but sometimes you need a third party to come in and provide clarity, provide a different perspective. And so coaches really are able to do that. And so even with Donna Howard's comment saying a life partner would be nice. So it sounds like she's single right now. And I do agree, life can be a little spicier when you have a partner. But I always tell my patients, self-care. So take care of yourself, get yourself together, and then you'll be in a great position to receive a new partner when the time is right. So if that's what you want, you're going to get it. But just take care of yourself in the interim. So, yeah.
Exactly.
I love
great advice. Yes.
Yeah.
So, and you also said something important that comes back again to if you, relationships, they need work. They need maintenance, like any process need maintenance. And the best way to maintain a process is by making sure that all problems are detected and addressed right away. So if you had a bad feeling when you left the house this morning, then make sure that the first point of contact again with this person, or maybe it was your daughter or whoever, that you circle back to them and say, well, I left the house feeling bad, and I like to discuss what went on, and maybe I could help you, or maybe you could help me correcting what I did. And then you find out either that you assumed that something was wrong, but there was nothing wrong, which we do a lot. Or maybe there was actually something and you can help. Maybe you offended her without even knowing it, and then your feelings, they told you there's something going on. It's very important, however, I was taught that feelings are great signals, but they are bad advisors.
Wow.
So don't use your feelings to inform your actions, but let them inform your thinking.
I like that. Great.
Yes, because what if you're angry and you're going to use that anger to address a problem?
Yeah.
You get into a fight. That's guaranteed. Whereas if you think angry and you think, why am I angry? What happened?
Right.
What are the facts? Well, she said, I don't know. She called me by my middle name and I don't like it. Right. Okay, well, tell her.
Right. Maybe she don't know. Right.
Maybe it was just an innocent comment. Yeah, you don't know. Yeah.
That's a nice nugget. I could just reflect on so many times when either on my end or the other end, at work, at play, at home, something happened, something said or heard, or you learn of something. And before you even get to your partner, you've made assumptions. You've already judged somebody. I mean, I hear one team member say this about a person, and I hear the other person's story, and it's completely different, right? Or that happens at home. So I think it's important that we pause, and we don't ignore the signal. But what we don't do is we don't act on the signal. We get more information, get more information. So I think I love that. And then Carol, she comments, you must be present in the relationship and not just coasting along. I love that. And that's absolutely true. If you're not present and all you're doing is just there, then the relationship won't last. So I'm a fan of great, insightful comments from both you and our audience. So I love that. So excellent.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I like the word present because it also means gift, but it also means you need to be present, but you need to be in the present, because in the present there are only facts.
Right.
There is no judgment, and there is no history. And there is so that's a great place to solve your problems.
I love that. You mentioned that during the podcast too. And yeah, do it in the moment, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Or like you said earlier, sometimes you got to wait that when you come home, but as soon as possible,
exactly.
Address it right away. So that's another great leadership skill. And again, it makes but you don't want to not talk to each other for a week because you're not willing to bring it up now and deal with it in the moment. But I like that.
Okay, you have room for one more? Because maybe that could be the last principle, but it's actually the first. That means that before you're making plans for yourself and for your life and for your family, start by doing things for other people. I mean, we're tribal creatures. And what research finds is that if you do something immaterial, so you give to somebody else, like you give them a good feeling or you make them proud or whatever, that's the best way to feel happy. But it does something else. If you do stuff for other people before you start on your own plans, then you're training your ego that he or she is not that important. And you also tell yourself, well, if I'm willing to maybe, what I do is every time I walk the dog, I pick up garbage, like soda cans or bottles or whatever, and I put them away. So my community becomes cleaner, but it also tells me, well, if I'm willing to do this, to get my hands dirty of other people's trash, well, then working on my own things is not an endurance. That's easy. So it's also to train yourself to get some tenacity and to learn that well, don't complain so much.
Right.
It's not that hard work.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
So that would be the maybe if you can only take one thing from today's episode, please think of something that you can do for either your coworkers or your family or maybe your community or whomever, that you can show your leadership by doing the stuff that you might think you're too good for. If you think you're too good for, that's an excellent activity to do.
Yeah.
So I thought I'm too good. It's all these adolescent people that throw away their bottles. Who am I to pick them up? So I started picking them up because it's not.
I mean, yeah, so like they said, who does that? So that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And I know even Toyota, one of the things I was impressed with their model is they definitely serve the end user who buys the car, but they also serve country. They put the country first. That's amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
Who does? Yeah, so
unbelievable. So if you want to find out about Toyota and what they do for the community, just type in community work Toyota. You see all kind of projects.
That's right.
And they do it always with the local people. So they try to discover what's the issues here. What do people deem important?
Yeah.
And then they're going to ask, how can we help instead of doing some kind of marketing launch?
That's right. That's right. And I love it. I think all of that is exactly what I wanted to get out of this conversation. I do want to just comment. I want to thank Donna, Aunt Carol, for kind of providing some commentary today during our live version. I know a lot of people will watch this after it's recorded because it's in the middle of the day. And I normally do these in the evening, but we are in the Netherlands and in Chicago at the same time. So, so I want to do me a favor as we wrap up. Could you give us a visual of your book and tell us where can we find that book and or yourself? Where can we find you on social media or certainly be able to purchase the book?
Yeah. So let's start. Well, you can see my name in the video. I don't believe there's anyone else in the world with this name. So, but I might be wrong. I haven't found him yet.
Yes,
so if you type in this name, you will find me on LinkedIn. I have a Twitter account, but I'm not very active on Twitter. So you might want to skip that maybe. I have a special website for all my professional activities like books and my coaching, and I have a one-on-one leadership program. And I'm happy to do it online. I'm thankful for the technology and for people like Tony to teach me how this works. Well, my most important work in English is now called Lean Thinking for Emerging Healthcare Leaders. There's a second book coming up, which was already published in Dutch, but will be available in English as well. And the website you can go to is called leanthinkinginhealthcare.com. I'm not sure, can you make some kind of notes or
yeah, the
okay.
website. Yeah. So it's Lean Thinking in Healthcare, right?
Leanthinkinginhealthcare.com.
I'll put that in there.
Yeah, and then so LinkedIn and my book site, these are the best places to get in touch with me. Anybody who's wanting to discover their next step towards perfection or towards their goal or wherever they want to go, I offer everybody who wants that a free strategy call of half an hour. And I guarantee that it will give you at least one insight of how you can improve yourself in your life. So I think that's about.
That's what I wanted to hear. I think that when you have a valuable conversation like this, and definitely enjoy the podcast that'll be in the podcast app. And obviously, if you go to it's podcast episode number 23. But if you search that, you will see the conversation we had, just about as long as this conversation here, where we talk about the book in more details, go through each chapter, and it'll actually provide enough information to tease you into investing in that. Because to be honest with you, when we have these great resources, we use them over and over and over again. So and what I try to do, I do what our guest has suggested. I just do just a little bit. So I may glance at his book for 10 minutes, but that's just enough to not only inspire me to do the things that we're learning, but also to add, kind of reinforce what you already know, so that you can apply those principles in your life. So I love continuous learning. I love the principles I learned from Lean. I love having partners like Arnout to help guide us and lead us in a slightly different way than I do in my work. And I just hope that this broadcast added value to your life. And I will continue, and as my guests will, to add value. We're going to keep making the world better. I may even pick up something outside on the floor when I take a walk. I may pick up some garbage because I was inspired today to do that. So any final thoughts before we wrap up, Arnout?
No, besides thanking Anne Banks for her lovely words. So thank you so much. We appreciate all of you listening here live or taking the time to listen to it or watch it later on. I enjoyed it very much. This one maybe even more than the podcast. Because now we could see each other.
That's right.
We had engagement from quite some people who were taking their afternoon to be with us live. That's really, really awesome. Yeah. So for me, it's also a great experience. I think this is the start of maybe doing the podcast round.
That's right.
Like some people do. You hear them at all kind of podcasts. And if it would have inspired just one person to actually take action, then I'm very happy. And see you next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Arnout, and we appreciate you. Wait, in Netherlands, is it Dutch? What's the language there?
Dutch, yes.
Okay, good. So So thank you for putting up with us English speaking folk.
No worries, no worries.
Yeah, you did a great job, and I appreciate that. So everybody listening, thank you again. Just so you know, as a preview, I'm going to have Amber O'Hearn as a guest, and she, believe it or not, she's called the Keto Carnivore, and we're going to talk a little bit about the carnivore diet, and I'll probably be having a conversation with her later today. So just a FYI, you may see my face again today. So thank you again for being here. Have a wonderful afternoon. You stay safe, my friend. And again, we'll be doing this again, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Great afternoon. Take care.